Who wants the first question?
Coach, can you tell us what Carlos Thomas will bring to the equation?
Hopefully good coverage. No, Carlos has been trying to get back in on the field for quite a while from an injury, and we were contemplating a change anyway, and then Marcel broke his hand, so it made the decision pretty easy, or not his hand, but a knuckle. And so hopefully, Carlos will do a good job for us. He's looked good in practice, even up into the point of this week, so, we felt he was ready to get back on the field.
Does he bring a certain level of physicality to his game that could help?
He appears so, but, practice is different than the games, and hopefully we'll see that in the game tomorrow.
Coach, what do you want to see out of your team that you haven't seen in the first 2 weeks?
A win.
Other than a win?
That answers most all the questions. Okay.
Can I ask you what you admired in Coach Jones's defense when you worked alongside him in Calgary?
They were high energy. They ran around and played hard.
This is a rivalry game for the fans, Coach. Have you developed a hate-on for the Argos yet?
Well, I would lie if I said I had. I don't like anybody we play particularly, but it's until you get involved in a rivalry, it's hard to have the same feelings. When I went to the University of California, Stanford is like that shirt right there would get ripped off of you in the Cal Stadium at a game against USC because red. Okay, and you think I'm kidding, but that's the truth. And so there was an incredible hatred between the fans, and we went in there, all an entirely new coaching staff for one guy. It was just a game to us, and and it remained. I hate to say it remained that way because the whole time I was there, we never lost to them. So it was not. We never quite had the hatred, because it takes a while to get the same level of. Hatred's a bad word for sports, but disagreement if you hadn't been involved in a rivalry.
Having been through that kind of a passionate rivalry, do you think that something like this with Argos Ticats really is maybe the boost that this team needs to perform better?
I know that when you have, quote, the rivalry game, whether it's Cal Stanford or Texas A&M Texas or Nebraska Oklahoma or whoever, everybody's adrenaline level goes up. You would hope that at this level it would only be a small tick up because we are professionals, and we're trying to be at a steady keel all the time. But you know for a fact that when the barbecue pits are going and you can smell the barbecue going over the stadium wall, that everybody knows it's a little different game.
Coach, would you classify this as a must-win or the way?
Yeah, every week is a must-win. Every game you play that week is a must-win because it's the most important game. The next game is always the most important game.
Does the pressure rise though as sort of the?
It's the second time in about 5 minutes I've been asked that question, and most pressure on coaches specifically is self-generated, and if how it's going can make you work harder. You weren't working hard enough to start with, and I don't ever believe that's been the situation.
When BC started the season 0-5 last year, obviously won the Grey Cup, do you think that set kind of a dangerous precedent?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, we started 0-3 and won it one year, so it's I never even thought about that. Teams that play well at the important times of the year have a chance to win the championship. It's been, I know there have been years when teams have, quote, got hot at the end and went in the playoffs and just won a smaller number of games than other teams that have won the championship. Everybody tries to do the same thing, go out and win every week. Nobody's looking to, quote, get hot at the end of the season and just be hot rolling in the playoffs, because that's just not the mentality that people think.
A couple players this week has said that in practice they've made note of kind of more of a mental focus, that was something that they were focusing on, or perhaps you did as a team to improve upon, I guess, not making as many mistakes or getting many penalties. Was that something that you might have incited or inspired or asked them to achieve this week?
We talk about every week about the things we need to do to win the game. And some weeks there are a lot of weeks on offense. It's no turnovers. If you don't have turnovers on offense, you have a good chance to win the game. And it varies on excuse me, on defense and special teams, what it might be. Now, they may have viewed part of the defensive one as being, being more mentally focused, because I could see where parts of that dealt with the mental aspects of the game.
There was also some questions this week as to the morale of this team, and it seems like, I know that everybody's been talked to death, but it seems like perhaps in the wake of that controversy may have brought your team a little closer together. Is that true?
That would have to be judged by the players. The controversy, I didn't, other than I've wasted a lot of good oxygen talking about it, and it made my wife mad, but I didn't view it as that large a controversy.
Coach, you have about 8 or 9 guys on the 9 game. Has that posed any issues for your roster?
I look across the league, and everybody has issues. It's in some version. I mean, I talked to a GM this week who talked about they might have to completely change their ratio because of injuries and play a third American offensive lineman. And so everybody has issues. Would we like to have no injuries? Yes, because that gives you more options. More options give you better possibility, and more options means there's competition to be on the field too.
This might be more of a question for Coach Craig and yourself.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it was for my wife.
No, sir. I wouldn't. No, I'm not going to mess with her. Don't worry. Tell me this: the defensive line.
I will tell you that when she beat up a fan in the stands one time.
Maybe I do want to talk to her after all.
What was that, Coach?
This guy was bad-mouthing Doug Flutie in the stands in the '92 Western Finals, and when he scored the touchdown to win the game, she started wailing on him, I guess. Now, that's what I've heard. I know she didn't show up after the game for a long time.
You were afraid to ask her about it? Or?
No, I know what happened. Please don't write that.
Hey, man, the words speak for themselves. But the defensive line, obviously, they're a different look in 3 weeks. Are you pleased with what you're seeing there now?
I think we've made progress along those lines. Obviously, we're not overly experienced there, and everything's a new experience. We talked about the situations in the game last night. I hate to diverge from the question, but the situations in the game last night, because I will assure you that a lot of guys in that locker room weren't aware of what goes on at the end of the game as far as the time element and how many points can be scored, and you better know whether the clock's going to restart, and when you're trying to give yourself up, you got to do it fast and all that kind of stuff. So those big picture things we're learning about, and the little things we're learning about too. So I think we made progress.
More questions?